And then we went on to talk about your arrest and detention. And you were released the next day. We talked about the 2012 Tax Commission. And how you were able to win your case at the Court of Appeal. But more significantly, the finding by GRA that you had overpaid your tax liability by $65,000.
li ci gëna am solo sax moy GRA moy ñi nga xamne ñoo saytu mbiri payam naama yi ñoom ci seen wàll gis-gis seetlu nañ yow sax dang leen fay lu ëpp na ba dem ci juroom ben fukki junne dalasi ak juroom.
But I just want to recall briefly
waaye dama bëgg fàttali ko rek ci lu gàtta
that you had told this commission several times
ne wax nga commission bi ay yoon
that you had advised the AFPRC against human rights violations or abuses and some of these decrees, and your advices were not heeded.
wax nga yoon ne denku nga AFPRC nguur ga lu aju nak ci ak yelleef boo xam ne ñu ko doon jëfee surtout nag loi yi nga xam ne moom lañ tëraloon muy décret yi nii waaye nag toppuñ sa ndigal.
Does that summarize what was discussed the last time?
Ndax loolu na tënk na li nga xam ne moom lañ fi waxoon balaa ñoo noppale ko ji.
That is correct.
And I want to come back to this issue of the advices you've been giving to the AFPRC.
Dama bëgg dellu ci waat nag lu aju ci dénkaane yi nga xam ne yaa ngi ko doon dénku waa AFPRC.
Your position is that you had advised them so much against rights violations. They did not heed to your advices. In fact, they kept calling you Uncle Human Rights or something like that.
Digal nga leen ay yoon ci anam yoo xam ne dañ war a fonka yellee fi doomu aadama waaye nag sa ndigal yooyu duñ ko daan topp ba gannaaw gi sax ñu daan la tuddee ne yow yaay Uncle Human Rights yaay nijaay ki nga xam ne daal yaay fanka lépp loo xam ne moo di dax ak yellee.
That's the position, isn't it?
Yes, and they call me the Human Rights Attorney General.
Wow, you might owe Human Rights Attorney General be.
In cabinet.
Cabinet be.
And in council meetings.
Meeting council.
The members of the council, the military members of the council.
Soldari nga xamne ñoo bokkon ci council bobu.
Used to call me Uncle Human Rights.
ñoom ñoo ma de oye Uncle Human Rights.
The chairman, Yaya Jammeh.
Chairman bi ki ko jiite woon di Yaya Jammeh.
Used to call me Abu Dentin's defense lawyer.
Dama daan oye Abu Dentin defense lawyer.
The diplomats.
Diplomati.
British High Commissioner or European Union Ambassador.
Ambassador yi.
Nigeria High Commissioner or delegations from Ghana. Used to call me the Human Rights Attorney General.
Human Rights Attorney General.
But is this because you were advising the council always about respect for human rights and to avoid rights violations?
Na tax ñu la daan oye loolu mooy jamono bu ci nekk rek yaa ngi digal council bi ci anam yoo xam ne dañoo fonk yelleefi doomu aadama ak daxa lépp loo xam ne moo di yàq ak yelleefi doomu aadama.
It started even before I joined the council. It was one of my conditions for accepting to serve as Attorney General, as I have elaborated in the memoranda already submitted.
Loolu nag bépp balaa maa ànd ak ñoom seen nguur la sax ndax bokkoon na ci sarta yi nga xam ne nii sësale woon naa ko ci nangatoo yi nga xam ne nii moom laa bindoon pour ma mun a ànd ak ñoom ci liggéey bi.
That was the genesis of my acceptance to serve, having heard from a number of good people, imams, former teachers.
Loolu laa gënoon a jubal boo fa pour nangu nag seen liggéey bi gannaaw boo xamee dégg naa ci ñu bari ay boromi xam-xam ay imam ak ay ñeneen.
Very good, prominent, good, religious Gambians
ay nit ñu baax ñoo xam ne nii ñu am xam-xam lañ ci diine ji.
were role models.
ñoo xam ne nii ay royuwaay lañ woon.
who loved me.
ñoo xam ne nii ñu ma soppa lañ woon.
and used to give me wise counsel.
te itamit daan ma xelaatal xelaat yu sell.
And when you took the job, your advice against the draconian nature of these decrees and the potential for rights violation that were in it was not accepted by the APRC government.
ba nga jëlee nag liggéey bi nag li nga xam ne yaa ngi ko doon ŋàñña luwaayu bon yi nga xam ne tëraloon nañ ko ak yàqa ji noo yàq ak yelleef dafa mel ni daal fonk sàmmuñ ko woon.
I earned the name or the label the Human Rights Attorney General.
amoon naa nag ndambu di turi Human Rights Attorney General bi.
because of my stand against all abuses and violations of human rights.
Ndek suma taxawaay ci lépp loo xam ne di xeex daal lépp loo xam ne mu nga aju ci wàllu xëtt yelleefi doomu aadama.
whether in council.
moo xam nag ci council bi la.
or in cabinet.
wala ci cabinet.
or as individual complaints.
wala sax tawat yoo xam ne mu ngi jógee ko ci yenn nit ñi.
received by me.
yoo xam ne maa ko jee jot.
I've given some of these. When when I read in the Daily Observer.
Pacham bi ma jàngee ci Daily Observer bi.
And an Brussels airline plane from Freetown to Accra.
ci Brussels airline plane boo xam ne mu ngi jógee ko Freetown jëm Accra.
After his relief from office.
gannaaw buñ ko bàyyee ci office bi.
The Honorable went back to the office to surrender the keys and was arrested and charged with trespass.
dafa demoon pour delloo ji caabi ji ñu jàpp ko tuumaal ko ne daal dafa dugg place boo xam ne nii aajowuñ ko fa.
On arrival in Accra.
te biñ àggee ci Accra rek.
I telephoned the Solicitor General, Mrs. Ami Bensouda.
la téléphone Solicitor General bi Ami Bensouda.
To take the case file from the police.
ne ñu jël case file bi ci loxo police yi.
And on my return to Banjul.
bi ma ñibbisee Banjul.
We terminated the proceedings.
ñu dal di dog nag layoo boobu noonu génne ko ci code bi.
Trespass.
ne daal amutoon benn trespass.
No any offense at all.
amut benn nag lu ñaaw loo xam ne defoon na ko.
I have said this. I've said when Dr. Peters came to me about Kenneth Best. I've said that.
Yes.
I've given that already.
Yes, in your statement.
So my stand against the abuse of human rights or the violations of fundamental human rights was not limited to council or cabinet meetings, but it was my daily life. It was my routine.
Where your advice is heeded, especially with regards to these decrees, seeing very well that they have embedded in it provisions that would enable rights violations. Did you advise against these decrees?
My advice was not limited to the decrees. It went before and beyond the decrees. It was my daily life. It was the anthem of my efforts.
Where your advice is heeded?
Sometimes yes. And sometimes not. But that discouraged me, but it didn't stop me from continuing to advise.
What would you say was your record with them? Seeing these decrees, it looks very much like your advices were not heeded.
Lo wax na ci lu ñoo mëna jappé sa digënté ak ñom ndax té buñ sétlo mbiri lu way dafa melni yow li ngi leen doon digal dal toppuñ ko woon.
I have been known to have a phenomenal memory.
Yes.
But it would be difficult for me at this point to tell you from one decree to another what I advise at the time it was being considered by the council. That would not be. I cannot tell you from one decree to another what I advised, what I didn't advise, whether I advised and the advice was taken or not. No, that would be expecting too much from me at this point.
I would be shocked if you were able to do that.
We'll be shocked.
Yes, if you were able to do that.
Then I don't know why you are asking me.
No, I didn't. Perhaps maybe this is a misunderstanding. My question is, all these decrees
Decree yi yeb loi yi ni.
We have gone through them one by one.
Le yeb se toppa nañ ko benn benn.
And for each of them, you have agreed that they are all bad laws.
Te benn bu ci nekk wax nga ne ay loi yu bon lañ.
Correct?
The first one you said, I said that was a good decree. That
bu
was
njëkk bi nag waxoon naa ne
the
degree
first
bu
one
baax
you
la.
brought, decree 11.
Yes.
bi nga njëkk
Said that
indi
was a
ne
good decree. In fact, it has a genesis
But even
from the Special Criminal Courts Act.
But even Decree 11 is a terrible decree in the sense that it is so broad-based, it has no safeguards for anybody.
Now, let me make this point clear. This was a military government. The main characteristics of a military government are decrees. And I would gladly refer you to Professor Elias' article, The Legality of Illegal Regimes. That would explain the nature of decrees in a military government, be it in the Gambia or elsewhere.
No, but what I am trying to drive at Mr. Mbai here is that good governance and respect for human rights, this is not an exclusive reserve or a requirement for civilian governments. Both civilian and military governments are expected to respect rights of people, and that is are expected to respect rights of people, and that is for your acceptance of employment. Isn't that the case?
Yes.
Fantastic. So therefore, the fact that this was a military government is in fact no excuse to pass bad laws.
No, I'm not taking it as an excuse. I'm taking it as an explanation referring to the writings of scholars on military government. And I've given you one.
In fact,
by Professor Elias, who is one of the most respected international jurists in the world.
I know that, Mr. Mbai. But the point I am trying to make is not that military governments can make decrees or that they legislate by decrees. That is not the point I am trying to make. The point I am trying to make is that during the time of the AFPRC, they made decrees which we have examined here, and for almost all of them, we have agreed that those were bad laws.
AFPRC amna ay loi yo xamne teralewul nañ ko muy decree yi te tay yep ñu ko toppa ben te diñ ko andé ñun ñep anda nañ ci ne ay loi yo xamne loi yu bon la.
I am not defending the decrees.
So can we agree therefore?
I am not defending the decrees, and I am not justifying them.
Okay. So
but I was not the military council, I was not the chairman. I was an advisor. And I did advise. I did advise from my belief in human rights and the rule of law. I said so as a lawyer, as a student of the literature on military government, and as a Gambian.
And thank you very much.
And it is for these reasons that I was ready to serve based on the elaboration of my memorandum of understanding. Human rights. Not that that was a guarantee. Not that that was a guarantee that human rights violation will not occur, but a pronouncement of my commitment to argue against human rights violations.
I agree with that, certainly. But the point I'm trying to make is these decrees that we enumerated and discussed are patently bad laws. Do you agree to that?
And actually, wax de way li nga wax moy degree yi nga xamne wax nañ ko fi yépp ñun ñepp leer nañu nañ ne ay loi la yo xamne loi yu baaxut la ndax and nga ci.
Decrees everywhere, decrees in all military governments have shortcomings, serious shortcomings.
But let's limit it to these decrees.
Including these ones.
Yeah.
Including these, but not limited to them.
Okay. But these ones, we agree that they were bad laws.
Like all other military government decrees.
I don't want to extend beyond what we...
Well, I'm extending it beyond on the literature provided by a prominent advocate and jurist.
But wouldn't it be only fair that we look at those that we have examined instead of venturing into the realm of hypotheticals?
No, not hypotheticals. These are not hypotheticals. My view was a global view on the literature.
Okay. Let's narrow it down to decrees passed in Gambia by the AFPRC during the time you served as Attorney General. And we agree that these decrees we've discussed were patently bad laws.
The decrees have their deficiencies, different from acts of parliament in a civilian government. The context is different from that of a civilian state of affairs.
We agree all that, but the question is a simple one, Mr. Mbai. The decrees were bad laws. We have identified the serious shortcomings in every single one of them.
Yes.
And for each of them, you have agreed that these were bad laws.
And what do you want me to say? You've said it.
No, I want you to confirm it.
Confirm what? I have said it. You want me to confirm what?
Okay,
that's why when I ask you, do you want me to say that water is wet?
Okay, can you confirm?
That is tautologous.
Yes, can you confirm again, Mr. Mbai, that these decrees were bad laws?
I don't know what I said it. I don't know what you want. You said I said so.
But I have
you said I said so. But I said that I did advise wherever violations of human rights occurred in the decrees. You said I said so. Now, what do you want me to say more?
Okay, I want you to reaffirm it for the record.
Why do you want
clarity of the record.
No, I have said it. Was it vague when I said it?
Okay, I'm happy that you have confirmed it. So I would proceed now.
I don't know what you want me to confirm and reaffirm. Why? What do you want me to confirm and reaffirm?
For the purposes of the record, so there is no ambiguity.
What is in the record so far?
Well, the understanding I have...
No, what is in the record? Not your understanding, but what is in the record so far?
I can only talk of my understanding of the record, which is that we have gone through each of these decrees, and you have confirmed that indeed there were bad laws.
I did confirm?
Yes.
No, I was not being cross-examined to confirm. I was questioned as a witness, and I said.
And you said what?
No. What you said it. You said what I said.
But can you tell us again what you said?
Tell me again what I said.
But it is better that it comes from you.
No, it has come from me already. Why you want me to repeat it like a Jaliba? I will not. I think what I have said is sufficient, and we should leave it to the Commission to determine. It is not your role to keep on harassing me to say it, confirm it, reconfirm it. I doubt. Mr. Chairman, I appeal to you to intervene in this matter. He has said, I have said it. Now he wants me to confirm, to reaffirm. What? If I have said it, you don't believe in me?
No, that is...
Then what do you want me to confirm and reconfirm? We've covered these decrees for the best of 2 days.
Mr. Mbai, it appears that this issue of the decrees is very inconvenient.
No.
But you would have to pardon me to ask the questions that I have to ask.
No, it is not inconvenient to me. I think you seem to be, I don't know what your point is in pursuing me this when I have made the point so clear.
But could you allow me to explain, therefore, my purpose? All I want to know is whether you had given advice against these decrees and what happened to those advice.
Man lima buga xam rek moy loi yi bañ ko defar ndax joxal digalon nga len ak digal yoy nga len joxon naka lañ ko jëfoyé.
I cannot tell you my advice on every decree for the period that I serve as Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Mënuma la wax lan la yedd ñi ci degree bu nek ci jamono bi ma nekké Attorney General.
I have told you.
Wax na la ne
that from the elaborated memoranda of understanding.
Ci ni nga xamné lu la feñal ci nangoto gi nga xamné mom lañ sétalé won.
My efforts against human rights abuses, as indicated from Pacham to Abu Dentin to Kedet Best to Dr. Ablai Conte,
li nga xam ne moom laa feeñ ci wàllu xëtt yelleef doomu aadama mooy ci limi ñim tudd noonu.
And that as Attorney General,
tey tamit ma nekk Attorney General.
I accept responsibility.
nangu naa nag gàddu.
But
waaye.
even if.
bu fekkee sax de.
if I knew.
bu fekkee xam naa.
or experienced the abuse of human rights.
ni li wala fekk
I had always advised against it.
taaxi doomu aadama nag boo waxtu bu nekk naa ko de.
My role was to advise.
suma wàll moo nekkoon pour ma yedd.
I was not taking the decisions.
nekku moom di jël ay dogal.
No implementing the decrees.
wala di doxal degree yooyu.
No pushing people seizing their properties or putting them into prison. Against that. That was why I was ready to serve.
moom nag ci pour dinga loolu sax moo taxoon ma nekkoon di liggéey.
I have said it.
wax naa ko.
To the best of my ability.
ci li nga xam ne daal moo ni ma suma kàttan tool.
Thank you very much. And the question that what I want to establish now is whether your advices against these decrees, considering that they all had the potential for massive human rights violations, whether these advices were accepted or rejected.
Now, in considering the decrees, you mentioned the names of people whose properties were seized. Is that not sufficient that my advice was not taken?
No, I want it to come from you. I don't want to guess it.
No. The conclusion, logical, if I had advised, yet these decrees were implemented to the extent of the violation of certain individuals which you mentioned, obviously, it concludes that my advice was not taken. If it were, that would not have happened.
Okay. All right. So it means, therefore, your advices against these human rights violations, your advices against these decrees were not being accepted by the regime.
I can only tell you that decree by decree, what I advise, whether it was accepted or not accepted, I will not be in a position to tell you. And you said you'll be shocked to come to that conclusion. You will be shocked if I can remember, decree by decree, what I advise and whether the advice was taken or not taken. If you expect me to do that, I think that would be impossible.
The difficulty here, Mr.
But I say globally, as Attorney General, Minister of Justice, as Chief Legal Advisor to the government, I take responsibility for the decrees. But even if I do so against my advice, because I believe that human rights are fundamental. I've said that in my statement. I've read it 3 or 4 times. Now, except if you want us to go on repeating this, we can go on repeating it. It's boring, but I don't mind.
Mr. Bai, I think it would help quite easily if you would answer the questions more directly, because otherwise we would go around and around. The question I ask is, I don't want to assume that your advices were not accepted. On several occasions, you have said that you advised against these things, but they did not heed. They did not accept. All I was trying to do is to confirm that position in the record. And it would be easy if you could just say, yes, that is the true position, or that was not the true position, and then we would move on.
I advise against the violation and abuse of human rights.
Whether
by the decrees or by individual members of the council or by the chairman in all circumstances because of my commitment to human rights protection and promotion. Whether decree or not decree.
Degree wala ñaka degree.
Whether decree or bad conduct or bad action.
Muy degree wala tax ay jéego yu bon wala.
My stand was always against human rights violations. Be it by the decree or be it by Yaya Jammeh's ordering for certain people to be arrested or detained. My answer has covered everything you want to know about, not only decrease, but even all other aspects.
Your answer, with all due respect, is still limited to the advice you have given. My question is, how was your advice dealt with? Obviously, with this decrease, it doesn't look like your advice was accepted.
Well, when Kenneth Best was picked up.
Let's speak to this decrease.
No, my role was beyond the decrease.
But
my role covered beyond, I'm including the decrease and other things. My role was beyond the decrease.
My question is limited to the decrease.
My answer is beyond the decrease. Includes the decrease and other bad conduct.
Okay. For now, let's limit it to the decrease. Then we would go to other bad conduct.
No, I will not limit it to the decrease. I will not limit it to the decrease because my role was beyond the decrease, far greater than the decrease.
But my question
individual actions of human rights violations was my concern.
I understand all that.
Yeah,
the question I have is, in view of this decrease, would you say that your advice about or against this decrease were accepted?
You told us here earlier that the properties of certain people were seized.
Can you answer my question more directly instead of digressing to something else?
No, I'm answering your question by referring to what you said about the decrease. You said these decrees were implemented and certain people's properties were seized. Obviously, the only logical conclusion is that if my advice was accepted, that the implementation of the seizure of properties would not have happened.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good.
So it means your advice was not accepted?
It means what I have just said.
Yes.
Not what you have said, but what I have said. You cannot put anything into my mouth. You cannot do that. We will try the whole day, but you will not fail. You will not succeed.
Mr. Bai, I'm just trying to...
No, don't put words into my mouth. Keep them into yours and let me answer with my own words.
Okay.
Don't ask me to use your words to answer your question.
What you said, therefore, is that because these decrees were implemented in a way that violated the rights of the people, therefore your advice against them was not accepted.
No, it was you who said that the implementation of these decrees violated the rights of other people when their properties were seized.
Okay, Mr. Mbai, say what you say and I write it down.
No, I have said it already. And I think it's being recorded. I've said it already.
Mr. Mbai, we don't have the facility to immediately go back on the record. Could you tell us your position so I write it down so we can quote it verbatim?
Okay, let me just help you in that.
The question is, were your advices against these decrees accepted by the AFPRC government?
Suma laajte bi daal mooy ndigal bi nga xam ne digal loon nga AFPRC nguur ga lu aju ci wàlli luwaa yi ñu defar nii ndax sa ndigal boobu toppoon nañ ko wala déet.
This is a yes or no answer.
No, it's more than yes or no.
Waaw wala déet.
Suma tontu na dana weesu waaw wala déet.
The answer is the answer is here. And I read it out here. The answer is here.
But this is a prepared script of... my answer is, were your advices accepted or not accepted?
I told you that although I claim to have a phenomenal memory, I cannot identify one decree and an order to say what my advice was and whether my advice was accepted. I'm not in a position to be able to say that. Okay. But I have said my answer. I have given more than the answer to your question here, which I read out. And
okay, let me take it.
Yes.
Kindly send it to me. Thank you very much.
You can go through it if you like.
Yes, I would, sir. Thank you very much.
How many pages is that? Is it 3?
Okay, paragraph 4.
Is it 3 pages?
It is 1, 2, 3 pages.
Yeah.
You've given me 2 copies. You want to keep one?
Yes.
Pass it.
You can have it. I have copies here.
You have copies. Yeah. I'll pass it to the chair to take a look at it. Okay, on paragraph 4,
Why can't we start with one?
No, I am looking for that which interests me, for the purposes of the questions I'm going to ask.
No, I think you should be interested in all of them, because that constitutes my answer to your question.
I want to go to the part that is at the heart of it. Mr. Chair, I am referring to paragraph 4, which states, and I quote, "My stance had always been to advise against abuses and violations of human rights. But the Attorney General, as the Chief Government Legal Advisor, takes full responsibility for the decrees/laws introduced while he is in office, even if, as in my case, I had strongly advised against all the decrees that I was aware of and considered would be in violation of fundamental human rights.
Yes.
But my advice was not always taken because the conviction of the AFPRC, especially in relation to accountability, was so strongly held at the time that nothing could have stopped them but divine intervention."
I say all the decrees.
Yes.
So why do you limit to specific decrees, which are difficult to remember? Go on, let's go on.
No, I guess that captures what I want. But I would also read paragraph 5. It says, "The dilemma of my role as Attorney General and Minister of Justice was a challenging one. To temper, it should be, yes, to temper the desire of the soldiers for immediate redress by way of accountability against guiding them towards an orderly transition for the restoration of a democratic government with respect for the rule of law."
Yes, and then let's go to the one paragraph. No, I want you to make a complete...
to satisfy you, Mr. Mbai, I would read that out, yes. But really it has no direct bearing on the questions I'm going to ask, but I will do that just to show difference again.
Yes.
All right. When the soldiers overthrew...
No, the soldiers.
When the soldiers overthrew the former regime, one of their principal...
No, the last but one paragraph.
Okay, paragraph 7.
Yeah, the soldiers. The soldiers believe against better advice.
That should be in the next page?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. The soldiers believed against better advice that the decrees were the most effective way of helping them achieve their objectives.
Yes.
In fact, this particular sentence suggests that your advice against these decrees were not accepted.
Continue this paragraph.
Could you answer that question,
Continue
sir?
The paragraph. The answer is there.
But could you just answer the question?
The answer is already there. Continue reading.
They were hell-bent on running over anyone who stood in their way, and they did. Korosise and many others, including myself, and the sufferings I had gone through. So this...
No, go on, my friend.
Well, if Mr. Mbai, I don't want us to be repeating...
No, you are repeating. You are the one, you've been repeating this decree since yesterday, and I enjoy that. But go on, please, just the next sentence.
Well, if it satisfies you, I would do that.
Yes.
Again, out of courtesy.
No, this is a hearing which is being watched by Gambians and outside the country.
Yes.
So I want it to be complete and fair. Just go on to the next sentence.
If by reading it, it would add to the perception of fairness, I would do so. The tragedy is that the initial intentions they had changed once they tested.
The initial intentions.
They held. Changed once they tasted power, and they became insatiable, and their objectives changed for the worst.
Yes. And then?
Going through the decrees one after the other would therefore not assist, given that I have already stated clearly that I had strongly advised against abuses and human rights and violation of human rights in Cabinet and Council throughout the short period I was the Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Yes.
Taking all this in total, really, it means your advices against these decrees and against human rights violations were not accepted, were not.
That's the conclusion of what I have said.
Yes.
So what more do you want me to say?
But do you confirm that that is the conclusion to be drawn here?
You said I have said it, and you've accepted it.
Well, maybe this time around, I would ask the chair to help intervene.
Maybe you don't want it. You want what I have said in writing, and I have read it orally.
I want you to confirm this conclusion, that from here, what you are saying is that your advice was not being accepted. Could you confirm that that is very easy and a legitimate question?
Is this not my statement?
Okay. If it is your statement, confirm it, Mr. Mbai.
How do you want me to confirm it?
By saying, yes, that is the conclusion to be drawn. My advices were not accepted.
What have I said?
You tell us.
You read it.
Mr. Chair, I think we're just going around.
And then I refer you to the last paragraph of my statement.
Oh, okay. Let me read out. Let me go back to the last paragraph of the statement.
Not what you have, the main statement.
Yes, okay.
Paragraph.
Last paragraph.
Counsel, you guys, you don't need to go through that. You asked your question, and the witness is given his answer. It's all part of the record. Shall we proceed?
Yes, but Mr. Chair, I want greater clarity. I don't want this to be...
Greater clarity? Maybe yes. Clarity. There is no greater clarity. There is not clear or clear.
Okay.
Greater clarity?
But Mr. Chair, my frustration is my learned senior would say one thing. If I ask him to confirm that, he would not confirm it.
I don't know what you want me to confirm what I have said in my statement.
Yes.
But I have said it.
Okay.
The last paragraph in the statement,
okay.
The main statement.
Could you read it out yourself?
Finally, I'm aware that it is being said that I was the person who drafted most of the draconian decrees used by the AFPRC to oppress the people.
But again, we are going to something that is not the subject of this discussion. We have accepted that you did not physically draft decrees.
Let me finish the paragraph. I want to make it very clear for the record that I did not draft any one of those decrees. And where issues relating to decrees arose, I always made it a point to advise against abuses and violations of human rights.
Always.
For the interest of the nation, I did my best efforts to guide the AFPRC, but such efforts were frustrated early on when they realized that the good deeds I was trying to achieve for the nation were against their personal interests, in particular self-perpetuation. I accept, even at the beginning, they genuinely did hold the good intention for the nation. This did not last long, and as such, I also did not last long with them. I don't know what more
you want. It's beautifully written.
What do you mean beautifully written? Beautifully written, not the beauty, but the fact of it.
And Mr. Mbai, we are not disputing that. I told you very early on that we accept that you did not physically draft these decrees. You have explained that in the Attorney General's chambers, there's a drafting department that produces decrees. All yes. that have been accepted.
And I say where issues relating to decrees arose, I always made it a point to advise against abuses and violations of human rights.
Exactly.
For the interest of the nation, I did my best to guide the AFPRC, but such efforts were frustrated early on when they realized that the good deeds I was trying to achieve for the nation were against their personal interests, in particular self-perpetuation.
Okay.
I accept, even if at the beginning they genuinely did hold good intention for the nation. This did not last long, and as such, I also did not last long with them.
Yes. So, in fact, in about 4 separate paragraphs, you expressing frustration, suggesting that your advices were not accepted.
I have expressed it in these 4 paragraphs as extensively, as adequately, and as intensively as I am able to do.
That your advices...
There is no need for me to say one word more about these decrees. I have already said them in different paragraphs in all these statements.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to highlight paragraph 3. Paragraph 4, rather, where he says, I had strongly advised against all the decrees that I was aware of and considered would be in violation of fundamental human rights, but my advice was not always taken because of the conviction of the ASPRC, especially in relation to accountability, was so strongly held at the time that nothing could have stopped them bar divine intervention. I also highlight paragraph 5, the dilemma of my role as Attorney General and Minister of Justice was a challenging one. I also highlight paragraph 7. Naturally, the soldiers had mapped out their own way of how to address some of the fundamental issues that had affected effective and sustainable national development at the time. The decrees can perhaps be examined in that context. The soldiers and the people at large wanted accountability of state resources. Accountability is an element of respect for human rights. That's an important one. And then the last paragraph is the soldiers believed against better advice that the decrees were the most effective way of helping them achieve their objectives. From all this, Mr. Chair, it's crystal clear that Mr. Mbai's advices against these decrees and human rights violations were not being heeded by the AFPRC junta. Is that conclusion correct, Mr. Mbai?
Let the Commission make their conclusion.
No, the Commission wants your own perspective, your own position from what you have said.
I have said it more than adequately.
Okay.
And I think the chairman has just said, I have answered this, we should proceed.
Okay.
I think the chairman said that before we went into these things. I have said what I have said about the decrees. And I think we should leave it to the Commission to come to their own conclusion.
Mr. Mbai, with all due respect, you are my senior by almost 40, if not 50 years. So I have the greatest respect for your counsel. But I have my case as counsel.
Yes.
And I would crave your indulgence to allow me to conduct my case, with all due respect.
Yes, but at the same time, I'm a witness. I'm not being cross-examined by you. You are examining me to produce the facts, but not cross-examining me. If you were to cross-examine him, I'd be entitled to a solicitor by my side. I'm a witness of fact.
Yes.
You don't cross-examine me. You examine me for the facts. But you are taking the attitude of a cross-examiner. And that is my reservation with your approach.
Mr. Mbai, I don't want to enter into the discussion as to the appropriate rules of procedure. But you know much more than I do that a commission of inquiry is the master of its own rules of procedure.
Yes.
And therefore can devise its rules to suit its occasion. The only important thing is to respect the rights of the people who appear before it. And I don't think that there is anything here to suggest that your rights are being violated. No. But I want to move on.
I didn't say that.
Exactly.
They have their own rules.
Yes.
I've read the TRC Act. I've not seen any rules attached to it.
Well, there are provisional rules of procedure. But anyway.
Have they been published?
Yes. But anyway,
I have read the Act, and I volunteered. I volunteered to come here and give my experience of what happened.
But does that mean that you should not answer questions? In fact, Mr. Mbai, if we are to apply the Act strictly speaking, it is an offense, really, to refuse to answer a question asked by the Commission.
No, I've not refused to answer any question.
Well,
I've not refused.
Let's not get into
okay.
that.
The chairman has said that we proceed.
Mr. Mbai, I hate having to argue with you, and especially when it is on a point that is of not great significance.
Thank you.
All I am trying to establish is to ascertain from your writing. I have cited the paragraphs where you said all your advice was not heeded. Yeah. You have lamented the fact that you had advised against human rights violations, but nothing barring divine intervention could change these people. In this document, you are expressing great frustration that these people would not listen to your advice against human rights violation. I just wanted you to confirm that, and that is quite easy to do.
It is my statement.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I would want not only what you have, but the paragraphs from 1 to the last to be considered inclusively.
All of them would be considered.
Yeah, not only the one
word
you
for
highlighted,
word.
but all of them.
Word for word. Everything would be considered.
Thank you.
Could I ask the OB van to play an audio recording for me? But before that, Mr. Mbai, do you recall making an interview with Elizabeth Oheni of BBC?
Yes. Yes.
BBC.
If you hear that interview, would you be able to remember it, to recall it? I only have a snippet of it. Maybe you would have the original recording, but I'll ask the OV van to play what we have. Yes, all right.
Yes, I had the interview with Elizabeth
Oheni, right?
Yes, but
are you ready, Mr. Mbai? May
no,
I ask that it be played?
No, just a minute. I'm not ready yet. Just a minute. I'm sorry, just a minute. Yes.
May I ask that may I ask that it be played?
That it be played?
Yes, the
course.
recording.
Of course.
Obi Van, please play the recording. Is everything okay in the OB van? Could any of the technicians communicate with the OB van to let us know what is the problem? The commission would listen to it. I am not sure whether we are talking about the same interview, all right? And I'm not even sure whether the recording I have is the full extent of the interview
and
you had.
FAFA EDRISA, a respected and successful lawyer who had at one time served in the Jawara government. He is now the Attorney General. I asked him how easy it has been to operate under the military.
My emphasis is that basic human rights must be observed and that the rule of law must prevail. This is more difficult for an Attorney General to insist upon in a military setup. Although I am pleased to say that the military setup is different from what it might be in many other places. We have a system of government a cabinet government where 5 of the members are military officers and 10 are civilians.
But how much weight does your voice carry in terms of this is the law, this is how you have to do it, as compared with the military who would say this is what we want to do, this is what we came to do?
I think from the beginning, it was one of my conditions for accepting the offer was that my advice must be respected. And this has been the case. What I found more difficult, although the problem is not as it used to be, to develop a culture of consultation, being consulted before things are done, and that is now that's the case now. Now I am being consulted before every act which may have legal implications is done.
You're used to voting all your life. You certainly would like to know when you're returning to democratically elected government.
So that's it. That's it. So, Mr. Mbai, do you recall this interview?
Yes.
And in that interview, you seem to have stated that your advice was being accepted.
No, I did not seem to. I stated. I stated, but the interview just said.
Hold on a second. First, can you confirm that that was you being interviewed? That was your voice?
Yes, that was my voice.
Yeah, he did confirm that. Thank you,
indeed,
Mr. Chair. But in the interview, you said your advice was being accepted.
Ci interview bi da nga wax ne li nga leen doon digal de ñu ko doon naan.
And before this commission, with all these things I have read, your position seems to have been the direct opposite, that your advice was not being accepted.
Commission bi nag moom liñ fi feeñal mooy ne li nga leen doon digal duñ ko doon toppa.
My position is not different.
Suma taxawaay de uute ak li ma wax.
The interview.
Li ma wax na ci interview boobu.
The interview, you clearly said your advice was being accepted.
Ci interview bi day wax nga fa lu leer ne looloon doon digal dañ ko doon toppa.
Referring to consulting the people, and that was the National Consultative Committee.
Let's listen to it again. I think you said 2 important things. One is your advice being accepted, the issue of consultation between the military rulers and yourself.
But the interview didn't say my advice on the decrease. He said my advice, not on the decrease.
I mean, Mr.
Oh, yes.
It's about human rights.
Yeah.
It was about human rights. Let's listen to it again.
Human rights was not limited to the decrease.
Let's listen to it again.
Human rights was my anthem in my life throughout.
No, I agree with that, Mr. Mbai.
So that does not limit the advice only to decrease.
No, I agree
decrease
with that.
were never mentioned in that.
I agree with that. It's about human rights violations.
Yes, and that was what I was doing. I say in cabinet, in council, in my daily life with Dr. Peters, with Mr. Fawada.
Let's hear. Obi Van, could you play it again, please?
And then FAFA BAI, a respected and successful lawyer who had at one time served in the Jawara government. He is now the Attorney General. I asked him how easy it has been to operate under the military.
My emphasis is that basic human rights must be observed and that the rule of law must prevail. This is more difficult for an Attorney General to insist upon in a military setup. Although I am pleased to say that the military setup is different from what it might be in many other places. We have a system of government, a cabinet government, where 5 of the members are military officers and 10 are civilians.
But how much weight does your voice carry in terms of this is the law, this is how you have to do it, as compared with the military who would say this is what we want to do, this is what we came to do?
I think from the beginning, it was one of my conditions for accepting the offer was that my advice must be respected. And this has been the case. What I found more difficult, although the problem is not as it used to be, to develop a culture of consultation, being consulted before things are done, and that's now that's the case now. Now I am being consulted before every act which may have legal implications is done.
You're used to voting all your life. You certainly would like
Okay, thank you. So it said my advice must be accepted And this is the case.
Li nga wax ci interview boobu mooy ne danga ne li nga leen a digal nag foog ñu nangu ko te loolu fi mu nekk nii mooy liy dox.
That I should be consulted.
No, it is two different things, Mr. Mbai.
But I said that.
The first is my advice must be accepted, and this is the case. The more difficult thing at the beginning was the issue of consultation, but now I am being consulted. That's what you said. So these are two separate things. The one is the advice, the other is the consultation before decisions. Let's focus on the advice. On the issue of the advice, your position was that your advice was being accepted.
Yes.
But in here, you are telling us that your advice was not being accepted. You said, in fact, it would take divine intervention.
Read it, but don't say it would take divine intervention.
You said, I had strongly advised against all the decrees that I was aware of and considered would be in violation of fundamental human rights. But my advice was not always taken because the conviction of the AFPRC, especially in relation to accountability, was so strongly held at the time that nothing could have stopped them, but divine intervention.
Yes, I maintain that. I maintain that my advice was taken. But my advice, I didn't say to all the decrees. I didn't say that. If that was to be the show, I would be the dictator.
But here...
If it were that my advice must be taken.
But that's what you said to Elizabeth.
Yeah, but not, I didn't say to the decrees. I say on human rights violations.
But if your advice must be taken, it does not matter whether it is decrees or it is human rights violation.
Yeah, but that must be, cannot be dictatorial. I was an advisor, not a decision maker.
What I am trying to show...
They could take my advice and not do it. They could accept my advice and not do it.
But that means they did not take your advice.
No, yes, take and accept, that's the difference now.
But
accept my advice.
And taking the advice are basically the one and the same.
They can accept, yes, we accept your advice, we'll do that, and then do a different thing.
But in that case, it means they did not accept it.
They accepted my advice, but did not take it.
Isn't that a contradiction in terms, Mr.
No,
Mbai?
not in my English language.
Well, you are certainly much more eloquent than me.
No.
But I can assure you that my interpretation in this case is spot on.
Now,
accepting it and taking it are one and the same.
Now let me give a scenario. You may have your mate or your driver, and instruct your driver, at 5 o'clock, you go to the TRRC and collect my wife. Yes, boss, I'll do that. And then he does something else. That is accepting the advice and taking...
But that is not accepting the advice.
No. But to you who say, yes, boss, I'll do that. What time do you want me to go? 5 o'clock, you must be there to collect the madam.
But accepting it is not saying it. Accepting it is doing it. Isn't that the case?
I've given a scenario. You can accept and not do it.
Can we agree to leave it to the commission? Because
yes.
I would not wish to argue with my learned senior.
Thank you.
On these issues. I don't want to be in a situation where I may have to ask questions that would ruffle feathers. Or I don't want to cross the line because of the respect that I must give you. But quite clearly here, you said, I had strongly advised against all, and I underlined all, against all the decrees that I was aware of.
Yes.
Considered would be in violation of fundamental rights.
Yes, but in the interview, I didn't say that all my advice on the decrees against violations of human rights were accepted.
But you gave a categorical statement. My advice must be accepted.
Yes.
And this was the case.
My advice was accepted in certain situations, but I didn't say to all the decrees.
The thing is, Mr. Mbai, the situation was not as rosy as was described in that interview. It was, in fact, much more frustrating. And what you state in here perhaps more reflect what happened than what you said in that interview at that time. No. Is that correct?
In the interview, I didn't limit myself. I didn't refer to decrees. I referred to advice. Not advice that all decrees so and so. I referred to advice, and I have been giving advice generally to the council, to cabinet, to individual members of the, like Yaya Jammeh, to Sana Sabali, when the ministers were detained, to Sadibu Haidara. I've said it all.
Mr. Mai, both statements really are about advice. Yes. The first one is my advice must be accepted, and this is the case, meaning that your advice was being accepted. Here you're telling the commission that your advice was not taken because the conviction of the AFPRC in relation to accountability was so strongly held that at the time that nothing could have stopped them bar divine intervention.
But is that the beginning of the paragraph?
No, I started reading out from the middle.
No, read it all. No, read it all. You must.
May we agree that we leave this to the commission to assess and make whatever conclusions they can draw from this.
Yes, I had said that before, and even the chairman said we should proceed.
Yes, Mr. Mbai. I think I should have heeded that advice.
Yeah.
Seeing that it is coming from my elders of much superior wisdom, and I should have heeded. My apologies. So the commission would juxtapose these two statements and determine what to make out of it.
Advice, and advice on all decrees. The advice was more than on decrees. That's the difference.
And I agree with that.
The advice was more than on decrees. The advice was only aspect of the violation of human rights. And that was not limited to decrees. That was much wider than the decrees. In the interview, in the interview, reference to decrees was not made. In my statement, reference to decrees was made because you particularly were referring to decrees. We are not enlarging it to advice, as was my daily routine. Because we are discussing decrees, that's why but in the interview it was advice. In the statement, it was according to your questioning about the decrees. That's the difference between specifically mentioning the decrees and leaving it open on my advice on human rights violations. May I also, according to my...
Yes, yeah. You want to play that one?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know whether I've got it right, but somebody will help.
Perhaps maybe...
What exactly are you trying to achieve?
Yes.
We are asked...
The speaker, the
maybe
microphone. Huh?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to rewind. I'm going to rewind. Rewind your back.
Okay.
They don't like me, but don't like the government. About 1 year or 2 years, that is appointing me. Two Gambian ministers are in London this week for talks with the devil.
No, not the whole.
Of office
But according to an article in the Nigerian Daily Times, he is already thinking of his exit, much unlike many of his African counterparts. The paper cites an interview published in London in which Mandela spoke about his possible candidacy at the 1999 election.
I am the servant of the people. I will continue for as long as they want me to. But I must add that I'm 76. I don't think at the end of the next 5 years a man of my age would like to continue to lead the country.
In the interview, President Mandela also dismissed criticisms that his government is delivering social reforms too slowly for the country's black majority.
I don't think that this is criticism to be taken seriously. We had to allay the fears of whites to ensure that the transition process took place smoothly. If we hadn't done so, the civil war that was threatening would have broken out.
And assessing his government's performance so far, the paper quotes Mandela as saying,
"The progress has been fantastic. We've introduced a culture of human rights, of transparency and accountability."
The Daily Times of Nigeria.
That press review was by Victoria Pierre-Ngome. 2 Gambian ministers are in London this week for talks. The delegation is trying to persuade the British government to reverse its advice to tourists not to travel to Gambia. Since the coup in July, which overthrew Sir Dawda Jawara, the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council, led by Captain Jammeh, has been under pressure from European governments to announce an early return to civilian rule, particularly from Britain, where Sir Dawda now lives. And several countries have cut aid to Gambia because of the army's decision to stay in power for another 4 years. Earlier tonight, the Justice Minister, FAFA EDRISA, came into our studio, and Robin White asked him if his delegation had made any progress.
Yes, we had a very open and sincere meeting with the Right Honourable the Baroness Linda Choka yesterday.
The Minister for Overseas Development.
Minister for Overseas Development. A meeting which went on between 11:30 in the morning and 1:15. I think there are indications that we have made our point clear.
What were you asking of her?
Well, I think it was a meeting to start talking, because there has not been any such meeting at that level since the military took over in July '94.
Did she give you any assurances at all that she would encourage tourists to go in the future?
Yeah, I think in the new year, after the conclusion of the National Consultative Committee meetings, in which the timetable is being reviewed and recommendations will be made to the Council, I think she is basing a lot of hope on the outcome of the committee's proceedings.
Did she tell you what she would like that outcome to be?
Well, she's made it clear that she hopes the timetable will be shortened.
To what?
Well, we've not come to any conclusion on that, because that is now an open debate in the Gambia.
Yeah, but what does she want?
Well, she thinks the timetable could be shortened.
To what, 1 year?
No, we are not thinking about 1 year or 2 years. That is a point she made. We have not come to any conclusion as to how long it will take now.
So you're going to make no progress, basically, with the British government until you publish your new timetable?
That seems to be the indication we have from the Right Honourable Linda Choka, yes.
Can you survive that long?
Well, the committee is given 21 days to come up with its recommendation, and it started on the 14th of December. We hope by the 6th or 7th of January they would come up with their recommendations.
Have you any idea what that recommendation might be?
I can't tell. The matter is being thrown to the Gambian public, and we'll go by their wishes.
But would you imagine that it'll come down to less than 4 years?
Well, if they, let me put it this way. If they say more than 4 years, that is likely to be rejected. More than 4 years will be rejected.
There has been a suggestion, and I think it's come from Sir Dawda Jawara himself, that one way out of this mess would be for him to return to Gambia very temporarily so that constitutionality can, come about once again, and he would guarantee that he would only stay for a very short period until there would be fresh elections. Now, would you consider that kind of deal?
I think I'll disagree with your basis when you say one way around this mess. There is no mess. There is a cleaning up of a past mess, but there is no mess as we are facing. And the proposal by Sir Dawda, interesting as it is, I think will be unacceptable.
Why?
Because Sir Dawda stayed in power for 30 years. And his system of government, admirable as it was wiped out in three hours in broad daylight. Now, if it was as good as it was, it would not have been wiped out in such a short period of time.
Yeah, but maybe if you were to do what Sir Dawda suggests, then all aid would be resumed immediately, tourists would flood back into the country, and everything would be fine.
Well, our interest is more than tourists coming to the country. Our interest is more than foreign aid coming to the country. Our interest is the welfare of the Gambian people. That is the basis of this new government.
I'm sure you must be aware that, we get letters every day from people in the Gambia saying they don't like you.
They don't like me?
No, don't like the government, the current setup.
Yeah, maybe those Gambians in exile.
No, these are Gambians in Gambia.
Well, if you come to the Gambia and come to some of our meetings, I think you will change your mind about that impression being given. I think it is nothing, I am sure, and I am aware of this. The new government is very popular.
Why did so many Gambians write to us complaining and saying that this new government already has its hands in the till?
Well, I don't agree with those Gambians. I think if you receive as many letters, you receive twice, 3 times more letters appreciating the direction now being taken by this new government.
We received some saying that, but the majority say this government is no good and already they've got their hands in the till.
Well, I don't agree. I think there is good reason for saying that there is time for change. We don't want any other Gambian leader to stay in for 30 years.
Yes, but answer the question now. Do people in this government already have their hand in the till?
No, I disagree with that.
Haven't they awarded themselves pay increases?
No, that is not true.
That's not true.
That is not true. The chairman's salary is $10,000 a month, which is less than 600 pounds. The head of state salary is $10,000 a month, which is less than 600 pounds. Now, I think some of your least paid workers in the railways receive more than that.
Okay, so what is your program now? How do you see the next months, next year or so?
Well,
what exactly are you trying to achieve?
We have started the cleansing exercise. We have 5 commissions of inquiry now going on. Well, of course, there's a late start in this because you had to rely on Ghana and Nigeria and Sierra Leone to provide us the necessary judges and the lawyers to assist the commissions. We have a commission of inquiry looking into the assets and properties of public officers of a particular category. We have a commission of inquiry looking into the operations of the revenue departments. Now, we have from World Bank reports prepared by Her Majesty's Customs, that evasion of customs duty amount to $85 million a year in the Gambia. Now, that for a country of about 1 million people.
Are you trying to get this money back, or are you trying to lock people up?
No, we are not trying to lock anybody up, because the fact that we brought foreign judges to look into this speaks for our respect for the rule of law.
But are you trying to get the money back?
Of course, we are trying to get back all unlawfully acquired money, either by corruption or other illegal means.
This Captain Jammeh, what kind of man is he? Is he the kind of man who's going to hang around forever and keep promising he's going to go? Or
No.
Does he have a mission which he's going to complete and then go?
Yes, I think Captain Jammeh's mission is to cleanse up the mess that had been created and perpetuated for over 30 years.
Have you been to see Sir Dawda Jawara here?
No, I have not been to see him.
Why not?
Well, my stay is very short, and my program is very, very active. I don't think I need to see him. I have the greatest respect for him. I have served under him before as Attorney General since 1982. In fact, I have had the pride of saying this, that every time my country goes into some trouble, they invite me. And when the mess is out, declared, they kick me out. That happened to me before, and I hope I don't stay long enough that the problems we are facing are admirably dealt with. This is my commitment. I'm not serving Captain Jammeh. I'm not serving the military council. I am serving my country.
Gambia's Justice Minister, FAFA BAI. Now it's time for a look at Africa's financial scene, particularly in Angola, where war has...
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbai. That was a very good interview. But I have a few questions. In all honesty, and in retrospect, in hindsight, do these decrees really reflect a respect for rule of law?
Ci orma nak ndax mën nga ñoo wax ndax décret yi loi yi ndax fonk na li nga xamne modi loi bi.
Do they reflect our respect for the rule of law?
Ndax ci loi yi feñal nañ fi ne ñun fonk nañ li nga xamne modi doxalani loi.
These decrees were the laws of the state at that time.
That does not answer my question. That does not answer my question. The question is, we know these were the laws of the land. The question is, whether these decrees reflect respect for the rule of law.
Decree ndax feeñal nañ fi ne daal fonk nañ li nga xam ne moo di doxalini loi.
These decrees provided that there will be a commission of inquiry.
Can you answer the question, sir?
That leads to observance of the rule of law. These decrees refer to the setting up of commissions of inquiry.
Well, Mr. Mbai, we have gone through each of these decrees, and all of them was seriously criticized for being very bad law. They do not respect the rule of law.
Loi yi day toppa nañ ko toppaat ko segga ko seggaat ko waaye amul fenn foo xam ne wane nañ fi ne daal fonk nañ doxalini loi ci yoon.
These were the laws.
In fact, in Nazi Germany, it was the law that they should go after the Jews and execute them. But were those laws in observance of the rule of law? Were those laws just laws? They were not.
That is an attempt of an analogy which is incorrect. The analogy of executing Jews. The analogy of setting
but
up
that was the law.
Yeah, I'm saying the law of executing Jews and the law of setting up commissions of inquiry are far different and apart.
But the standard is the justness of these laws. That is the point that I am after. We know these were the laws of the land, but were these laws a reflection of respect for the rule of law?
I'm not defending the decrees.
But you defended them in your interview.
Yes.
Because you said
yes,
those things were established to demonstrate our respect for rule of law.
Yes.
But here you are telling us that these decrees...
No, I don't say to demonstrate, I said...
To show our respect for the rule of law.
No, I said we are inviting foreign judges and lawyers to head this commission in our respect for the rule of law. You can listen to the
yes, but I did not manufacture this.
No, I said you listen to the interview with Elizabeth Ohene twice. Let's listen to this again.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Mbai, I would assure you that in there you did say that we have set up these commissions of inquiry to show our respect for the rule of law.
No, we have set up our commissions of inquiry and have invited foreign judges and lawyers.
You have also said that, but are you disputing that you said it shows our respect for the rule of law?
Even if I said so,
But are you disputing that you said so?
I would rather listen to it again.
But I am saying to you, sir, with all due respect, that you said that you set up these commissions of inquiry to show our respect for the rule of law. Yes. And I am putting it to you, sir, with all due respect, that these decrees are hardly a reflection of the respect for the rule of law. What do you say to that?
I don't agree.
So don't you agree with? That you did not say so, or that these decrees are in fact a true reflection of the rule of law?
These decrees were the laws at the time.
But were they just laws?
There are good laws and bad laws, but they were the laws.
But were they just and good laws, these decrees?
That's a matter of interpretation. That's a matter of opinion.
Well, you are a very seasoned and one of the most senior lawyers in this country. We respect your counsel.
Yes.
Tell us, Mr. Mbai, you are guiding us for posterity. Yes. Is this the standard for good law in our country?
It is not the standard of laws in a civilian government.
But for any government, be it civilian, military, or mixed, would this be the standard for good law in any society?
It could be the standard of laws for a military government.
But you're not answering my question.
Well, I'm striking the difference.
My question is, would this be the standard for good law in any society?
Now, as you use the Jews, is capital punishment a good law?
I don't think it is good law.
Good.
I don't think it is good law.
Good. So, if these decrees violate human rights, then they are not good laws. Because my
Exactly.
stand
And these
was
decrees
against.
violate human rights.
Then they are not good laws.
But then in your interview, you said that these laws reflect our respect for rule of law.
And what? Let's listen to it again.
Okay, let's listen to it again.
Just before you play it again, when was that interview, Rokembai? What date?
20 December 1994. 20 December 1994.
20 December. And by that time, Council, can you tell me which decrees were adopted?
I can tell you up to decree.
Mike.
29. So while the interview was on, these decrees were being adopted in the Gambia. Is that correct?
Yes, a lot of them were already. A lot of them were already accepted. Are already up to Decree 23 were already in force.
And okay, fine. Please, proceed.
Yes, from Decree 5 or
No,
Decree 6 if you want.
No, not if I want. We have said that.
Yeah, he was not materially
Yeah,
involved
I
in
could
that.
not have of any meaningful influence on the decrees which were passed a day or two before I became, or a day or two after I became.
I agree with that completely.
Stop referring to them.
What I am saying is that these were the decrees that were passed during your time.
Yes.
I would not have any basis to exclude them.
The basis is that it was not practically possible for me to have had any meaningful influence on those decrees.
But that would be speculation on my part.
Not speculation. It's a matter of fact, a matter of...
But you see, Mr. Mbai, perhaps maybe my interpretation is in fact more advantageous to you, because I am not assuming that for any of those decrees you even had any material participation. That is a matter of fact to be determined from what you say.
Even the decrees, all the decrees refer to during those dates, might have been decrees passed when I was out of the country.
It's possible.
Yes, when we observed the Daily Observer article on Pacham, I was out of the country.
That's true.
On the 20th of December, I was in England.
And that is why I said these were decrees passed during your time.
Yes.
I did not say that these are decrees in which you participated in.
Well, there was a time when you said I took a part or participated in their enactment because I was a member of the council.
Yes.
The council continued their proceedings whether I was in or out of the country. Sometimes they do even without me. Sometimes they will do their meeting without me even knowing about it.
But your statement to Elizabeth Oheni is that now you are always being consulted.
Yes, consulted not being I making the decision. I could be consulted and my opinion not accepted.
But you said your opinion was being accepted.
Yeah.
You said my advices must be accepted, and they are.
And can we hear the interview now?
But not my advice must be accepted was wider than the decrees.
Yes.
But you are limiting them, focusing them on the decrees. And this is the difference of our approach.
This interpretation is even worse.
Let's hear the interview now, please.
Yes,
is that okay?
Let's go.
Yeah,
let's hear the interview again.
Yeah.
And just to keep the record straight, Mr. Chair, my point is that he did say that those commissions show our respect. The establishment of those commissions and the invitation of foreign judges show our respect for the rule of law.
There's a portion to
Very
look out
good.
for.
Now you've put it rightly. The commissions, the establishment of the commissions, in which we are inviting foreign judges and lawyers to head, that shows our respect for him, because we invite other judges from other jurisdictions.
But Mr. Mbai, what shows respect for the rule of law is not the invitation of foreign judges. It is the foundational document. It is the legislative framework which establishes the mandate and the power that is given to the commission. Yes. Isn't that the case?
That is the case.
And we have agreed that these are patently bad laws. Very bad laws.
Yes.
Exactly. So how could very bad laws be a demonstration of respect for human rights or respect for rule of law?
Even good laws by corrupt judges can result to injustice.
Yes, I agree with that.
Good. So bad laws, properly administered, may be better than good laws administered with corrupt judges.
You are
so it's a matter of approach, matter of opinion, matter of practical implication, practical implementation.
You see, I am learning from my learned senior, but it does appear that we are really wallowing into the realm of speculation.
No.
Shall we hear the interview?
Let's listen
Please.
to it again.
Yeah, thank you.
Unconditional support and cooperation has offered to put the resources
I think I'll have to forward it a bit.
Neighboring countries.
I have no doubt that
Gambian ministers are in London this week for talks. The delegation is trying to persuade the British government to reverse its advice to tourists not to travel to Gambia. Since the coup in July, which overthrew Sadauda Jawara, the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council, led by Captain Jammeh, has been under pressure from European governments to announce an early return to civilian rule, particularly from Britain, where Sadauda now lives. And several countries have cut aid to Gambia because of the army's decision to stay in power for another 4 years. Earlier tonight, the Justice Minister, FAFA EDRISA, came into our studio, and Robin White asked him if his delegation had made any progress.
Yes, we had a very open and sincere meeting with the Right Honourable the Baroness Linda Choka yesterday.
The Minister for Overseas Development.
Minister for Overseas Development. A meeting which went on between 11:30 in the morning and 1:15. I think there are indications that we have made our point clear.
What were you asking of her?
Well, I think it was a meeting to start talking, because there has not been any such meeting at that level since the military took over in July '94.
Did she give you any assurances at all that she would encourage tourists to go in the future?
Yeah, I think in the new year, after the conclusion of the National Consultative Committee meetings, in which the timetable is being reviewed and recommendations will be made to the council, I think she is basing a lot of hope on the outcome of the committee's proceedings.
Did she tell you what she would like that outcome to be?
Well, she's made it clear that she hopes the timetable will be shortened.
To what?
Well, we've not come to any conclusion on that, because that is now an open debate in the Gambia.
Yeah, but what does she want?
Well, she thinks the timetable could be shortened.
To what, 1 year?
No, we are not thinking about 1 year or 2 years. That is a point she made. We've not come to any conclusion as to how long it will take now.
So you're going to make no progress, basically, with the British government until you publish your new timetable?
That seems to be the indication we have from the Right Honourable Linda Choka, yes.
Can you survive that long?
Well, the committee is given 21 days to come up with its recommendation, and it started on the 14th of December. We hope by the 6th or 7th of January they would come up with their recommendations.
Have you any idea what that recommendation might be?
I can't tell. The matter is being thrown to the Gambian public, and we'll go by their wishes.
But would you imagine that it'll come down to less than 4 years?
Well, if they, let me put it this way, if they say more than 4 years, that is likely to be rejected. More than 4 years will be rejected.
There has been a suggestion, and I think it's come from Sadauda Jawara himself, that one way out of this mess would be for him to return to Gambia very temporarily so that constitutionality can come about once again, and he would guarantee that he would only stay for a very short period until there would be fresh elections. Now, would you consider that kind of deal?
I think I disagree with your basis when you say one way around this mess. There is no mess. There is a cleaning up of a past mess, but there is no mess as we are facing. And the proposal by Dawda, interesting as it is, I think will be unacceptable.
Why?
Because Dawda stayed in power for 30 years, and his system of government, admirable as it was wiped out in three hours in broad daylight. Now, if it was as good as it was, it would not have been wiped out in such a short period of time.
Yeah, but maybe if you were to do what Dawda suggests, then all aid would be resumed immediately, tourists would flood back into the country, and everything would be fine.
Well, our interest is more than tourists coming to the country. Our interest is more than foreign aid coming to the country. Our interest is the welfare of the Gambian people. That is the basis of this new government.
I'm sure you must be aware that we get letters every day from people in the Gambia saying they don't like you.
That they don't like me?
No, don't like the government, the current setup.
Yeah, maybe those Gambians in exile.
No, these are Gambians in Gambia.
Ah, well, if you come to the Gambia and come to some of our meetings, I think you will change your mind about that impression being given. I think it is nothing. I am sure, and I am aware of this. The new government is very popular.
Why did so many Gambians write to us complaining and saying that this new government already has its hands in the till?
Well, I don't agree with those Gambians. I think if you receive as many letters, you receive twice, 3 times more letters appreciating the direction now being taken by this new government.
We received some saying that, but the majority say this government is no good and already they've got their hands in the till.
Well, I don't agree. I don't agree. I think there is good reason for saying that there is time for change. We don't want any other Gambian leader to stay in for 30 years.
Yes, but answer the question now. Do people in this government already have their hand in the till?
No, I disagree with that.
Haven't they awarded themselves pay increases?
No, that is not true.
That's not true.
That is not true. The chairman's salary is $10,000 a month, which is less than 600 pounds. The head of state salary is $10,000 a month, which is less than 600 pounds. Now, I think some of your least paid workers in the railways receive more than that.
Okay, so what is your program now? How do you see the next months, next year or so?
Well,
what exactly are you trying to achieve?
We have started the cleansing exercise. We have 5 commissions of inquiry now going on. Well, of course, there's a late start in this because we had to rely on Ghana and Nigeria and Sierra Leone to provide us the necessary judges and the lawyers to assist the commissions. We have a commission of inquiry looking into the assets and properties of public officers of a particular category. We have a commission of inquiry looking into the operations of the revenue departments. Now, we have from World Bank reports, prepared by Her Majesty's Customs, that evasion of customs duty amount to $85 million a year in the Gambia. Now, that for a country of about 1 million people.
Are you trying to get this money back, or are you trying to lock people up?
No, we are not trying to lock anybody up, because the fact that we brought foreign judges to look into this speaks for our respect for the rule of law.
Are you trying to get the money back?
Of course, we are trying to get back all unlawfully acquired money, either by corruption or other illegal means. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mbai.
So you are correct.
The full quote is the fact that we brought in foreign judges to look into these issues shows our respect for the rule of law.
Thank you.
Okay. And I am saying that in fact...
Which is different from what we had in writing before.
This is even better. The fact is that these laws that have been passed as the vehicle to make these investigations are in fact very bad laws that hardly reflect our respect for the rule of law.
You don't deny that.
You can deny that.
I don't deny that.
Then why did you tell BBC that we brought in foreign judges which reflects the rule of law? The fact of the matter is underlying the vehicle, the infrastructure had a very rotten underbelly.
Yes, looking with a hindsight. With a hindsight.
But even Mr. Mbai, you don't have to really look at it at hindsight. At the drafting stage, the potential to for human rights violations were inherent. They were inbuilt into the legislation, and that was deliberate. The suspension of habeas corpus, the suspension of all injunctive relief, the suspension of all equitable relief can hardly be seen as a respect for the rule of law.
Now, as I said in my statement, in the context of the Gambia, Africa in particular, the world at large, there can be legal jurisprudence that corruption can be an abuse and violation of human rights.
Mr. Mbai, is that justification for violation of human rights to address that corruption? That is very Machiavellian.
If corruption is a violation of human rights.
Yes. Do you violate rights to address that corruption?
You need a law to address that. And I said the violation of human rights is based on these principles: equality and non-discrimination, right to economic development.
But Mr. Mbai, these laws were discriminatory.
If corruption is a violation of human rights, where do you draw the line?
So
it's not limited. It's not limited to.
I mean,
the decrees or the commissions.
Mr. Mbai,
the commissions were to address a human rights violation.
Mr. Mbai,
that is corruption.
Be careful what you say, because we all look up to you.
Yes.
We all would be learning from you as to how to ensure a better society in Gambia,
yes,
a society that is based on rule of law.
Yes.
What you have to tell us would form important prescriptions that would be embedded in our psyche. What you have to tell us would be important lessons for us to learn from and move for the future. This is very, very important. And Mr. Mbai, you are speaking to the Gambian people about how we must structure our society. Yes. And I ask you this question, Mr. Mbai. Is it lawful to violate human rights in order to correct corruption?
Ndax andana nak pour yele fi doom adama pour defar jubadi ala njublang.
If corruption is a violation of human rights.
Yes. But is it lawful?
Let me finish.
Is it lawful to violate human rights in order to correct that violation
of human rights?
Yes.
That's a choice. Cannot make a choice. Because corruption is a violation of human rights. If you set up laws to correct corruption, which is a violation of human rights, then there is a problem.
Exactly. That is a false choice.
It's a problem.
It is not only a problem, Mr. Mbai, it is wrong.
You see, sometimes you amputate a leg to save a life. Not that amputating a leg is a good thing, but it may be necessary to save life. Sometimes you receive this injection, this COVID injection, as a prevention of the infection of coronavirus.
But my answer to that is, if that amputation is a waste, then that amputation is absolutely unnecessary. And in this case, we did not have to violate rights in order to correct other violations. It was wrong to pass these decrees in the manner in which they were.
I don't defend the decrees, but I accept that corruption is a violation of human rights. As to which one is worse, making laws to correct corruption in a way that is a violation of human rights, or fighting against corruption, which is a violation of human rights.
Both are equally bad.
Good, I agree.
Exactly. And that is the point we're trying to make here. These are laws that did not merit the suggestion you made at BBC, that what we were doing in Gambia to investigate and fight these corruptions show our respect for the rule of law. In fact, it was a demonstration of our disrespect for rule of law.
I didn't say that what we did in the Gambia. I didn't say that.
No, I mean the setting up of the commissions and the...
What did I say? You wrote it out. You wrote it out. What did I say?
Yes, you said we brought in these foreign judges to show our respect for rule of law.
No, it's even more than that.
That's what you said.
No, it's more than that. said the commissions.
Yes, you said commissions of inquiry have been set up to investigate into corruption, into assets of people. And then you went on to say that we, in fact, invited foreign judges to show our respect for the rule of law.
No,
and my position, Mr. Mbai, is that the foundational documents, which establish these commissions of inquiry hardly demonstrate a respect for rule of law. And do you state a contrary position?
And I said that I advise against all abuses of human rights in all the decrees.
Thank you very much.
But if my advice was accepted and not followed, that was my frustration. That was the dilemma I pointed out in my
But that frustration was not reflected in either of the interviews that you gave.
Yeah, my frustration at that time was not as far-reaching as it was later on.
This was December.
Yes, December.
You left 2 months thereafter, or 3 months thereafter.
Yes, and the reason for leaving was that I knew my advice was not being followed.
And all the relevant decrees were already passed. The commissions of inquiry were already working. And the arrests were ongoing, and the people were being evicted from their homes.
I was evicted from my home.
Yes, but I hate to say that you became a victim of the architect of the let me rephrase it. You became a victim of the system you helped create.
I helped create?
Yes.
No, not
Mr.
I helped
you
create.
helped create these decrees.
I said, what did
you
I
helped
say?
to create these decrees.
No, I didn't say I helped. I said my stand has always been to advise against abuses of human rights. And I suffered as a result of these decrees.
But that does not change the fact that you have said you accept responsibility for these decrees.
Yes, but...
Yes, but these are the same decrees that were used against you, so you became the victim of your own creation.
Not my own creation. I didn't create the decrees.
Thank you very much.
The sweeping statement that you make of your own creation. I didn't create the decrees.
But if you are responsible for it...
I didn't enact the decrees. I was an advisor, and my advice was against violations of human rights.
You participated in the creation of the decrees at 3 important critical levels. 3 critical levels, and more than anybody, for that matter.
More than anybody?
Yes, Mr. Mbai. There is no particular individual amongst all the participants who participated at 3 levels of the creation of these decrees. You participated at the level of the Ministry of Justice. In fact, these decrees were drafted under the ministry that you headed.
All laws are drafted by the Attorney General's chamber.
Exactly.
Yes.
At the second level...
That's not unusual. That's not unusual.
At the second level, you participated at cabinet level.
And argued against violations of human rights.
Yes. And at the third level, you participated at council level.
Against violations of human rights.
Yes. And these decrees, which were drafted from your department, were accepted. So clearly, therefore, you are part of the creators of this decree.
I'm not part
Whether
of the
you
creators.
advised against it or not.
I was not a creator, and I was not part of a creation of the department. Now, let me put it another way. Yahya Jammeh stayed in power for 22 years.
Yes.
He was successively being elected as president.
Yes.
Are all Gambians guilty of the violation of human rights?
No.
Good.
But we are all responsible for his perpetuation in power.
Good. Okay. So who is free? Who is free?
But the inquiry is not about Yahya Jammeh's perpetuation in power. The inquiry is about these decrees that have been passed by the Ministry of Justice, of which you are the head.
No, that have been passed by the Ministry of Justice. That's wrong.
I mean to say written by the Ministry of Justice, of which you are the head.
No, they were drafted by the drafting division of the Ministry of Justice.
Of which you are the head of the entire ministry.
Yes, but at any point where these decrees were discussed, whether in cabinet or in council, I agreed against the abuse of human rights violations.
But Mr. Mbai, to be,
agreeing against the violation of human rights does not mean that my position will be accepted. And does not mean that if my position is not accepted, the decree will not be passed.
Mr. Mbai, here are 24 decrees in succession. All of them, every single one of them has an inherent rights violation provisions in them. And you kept advising against them, they kept passing them, and you still continued in office without resigning?
Without resigning. I was halfway across the desert, halfway at sea.
But even being halfway at sea, you go out there and defend them? Because your interview with Elizabeth Oheni suggested that all was good and dandy. Your advices were being accepted. Your interview with Robin White seems to have suggested
that I was not being consulted at the beginning.
How about the other one, that your advices were being accepted?
Elizabeth Oheni said I complained that I was not consulted at the beginning. But you were
being consulted.
And my advice was accepted. Yeah. But it depends on at what stage was I not being consulted.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mbai. We leave that for the Commission to take a look at. In the meantime, Mr. Mbai, you, in spite of everything that has happened, and in spite of the violations of your rights, in spite of the bad way in which this regime treated you, which must be condemned, like all other rights violations must be condemned. You continue to serve your country.
Léegi ak leelu nga xamne mo xew yépp ak nguur goga jëf yu bon yi nga xamne mom lañ la tek ak yu miti yi la tek yépp terewul nga continuer di leen liggéeyal.
And could you itinerate some of the interventions or the areas in which you participated in the service of your country?
Léegi na ding ñu mëna feñal nak yenn ci ay bunta yo xamne am nga ci sa loxo ci liggéeyal sa réew mi.
Before that, there is something else in my written statement.
Bala loolu am na leneen loo xamne binda naa ko ci suma ay kàddu.
Yes, we would perhaps maybe we should do that before we come to your other services to the country. We would want you to talk about how Jammeh has abused the judiciary, really, based on what you know.
Even before that, the final report on the task force committee to independent review annual access taxpayers who were originally brought before the tax commission.
Yes.
I think that will be the next paragraph.
Yes, please proceed.
Yeah.
You may proceed.
Witness, just hold on a second. Counsel, is it your intention to finish with the witness this evening in view of the iftar and the thing out there, or should we continue tomorrow? I'm in your hands.
I think we should be able to finish in 10-15 minutes, Mr. Mbai.
No, I don't think in 10-15 minutes.
In that case, then let's adjourn till tomorrow.
Yeah. Wait just a second.
Well,
I am in your hands, Mr. Chair.
Let's try how far we go. Let's try how far we go.
Allow me, Mr. Mbai, to consult with the chair.
I have one.
Mr. Mbai, let me consult with the chair.
3.
All right, thank you.
4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, I have only 7 pages left out of 23.
Council, you have the floor.
Mr. Mbai, perhaps the best thing would be to adjourn till tomorrow, so that you can also, if need be, reorganize your thoughts about your service to your country and the final closing remarks.
Yes, indeed,
that you would have to make.
Especially that one. We want to hear a good deal from you.
And for that one, I would personally make a special plea for you to talk to the Gambian people about how to better organize our society.
They say we slept in one world and woke up in another. This global tragedy got humans together despite our social distancing. Our nature is taking a break. And giving us a wake-up call on what and who truly matters. Look around you. Hold on. Breathe. Count your blessings. Take time for self-renewal, for a better start tomorrow. Soon, life will be back. Meanwhile, let's stand apart together with one heart.
Star GSM Electronics. Special Ramadan promotion starting from April 4th to 15 on all our Slaughter home appliances such as two-way gas cooker, microwaves, washing machines, stand fan rechargeable that can last for 8 hours, different stand freezers, deep freezers from 140 to 400 liters, blenders, stand and ceiling fans, solar panels ranging from 150 to 600 watts, different types of solar batteries, stabilizer ranging from 500 watts to 2500 watts, originally flat screens from 17 to 65 inches. All our items are durable, energy saving, modern and 2 years warranty. Buy our Slaughter deep or stand freezers, 140 liters for only $10,000. Visit our distribution center at Star GSM at Westfield Highway opposite OJ Junction, Talindi Market, or Tabokoro Traffic Light, or call 700-2494. At Star GSM, our appliances are original, durable, modern, and energy saving. Star GSM Electronics.
dafa ne ci man coono di dem dëkk ba dëkka rawatina ba foofa ci Sénégal pour jëndi daal jeex na fii ci biir réew mi.